Welcome to the Crypto Podcast. You can find all our episodes on the cryptopodcast.org. We're also on BitChute and YouTube, and you'll find the links in the podcast description. I throw out a podcast, the Awakening Podcast, to wake you up to what's going on in the world. Learn Polish if you feel like learning Polish, the Meditation Podcast to chill you out, and the Speaking Podcast to help you speak. And all can be found on roycollin.com. Today, my guest, staying up late just for me, really looking forward to this conversation. Please welcome Ed from NFTska blog. Is that correct?
NFTska, that's right.
NFTska,
Yeah. Yeah, SKA, yeah.
So I suppose, no problem at all. I suppose best thing is maybe, I know you've a master's in economics and you've done a few other things. You might just let the listeners know who's Ed.
Yeah, sure. So I have a background in technology and economics, which actually got me into Bitcoin, fairly interested in Bitcoin fairly early on, back in 2013. Started looking at it, understanding it, and wanting to get into it. But then I think, like a lot of people, kind of got a little bit scared off. Back then, there was a website called Silk Road. And if you ever Googled Bitcoin, Silk Road would come up. And it was kind of a nefarious website where people were doing all kinds of illegal activities and using Bitcoin as a medium of an exchange. And it just scared me off. I was like, I don't know if I want to get involved in this, but what a mistake, right? If I had just pursued that and stuck with it since then, where would I be now? But I did get into it in around 2017 when that hype cycle came in, and started learning more about it, making purchases, and kind of getting into the community a little bit. Um, and then in 2019, really started getting serious about crypto, and taking it back to my background in economics, it just if you just think back to 2019, we had a booming economy, unemployment was incredibly low, yet uh, we the Fed couldn't raise interest rates because they were crashing the stock market. If they did that, there was still quantitative easing going on from way back in 2008, and it was just like, well, if you can't in a booming economy, if you still can't raise interest rates, if you still can't correct and go back to normal, what does that say about what's happening? Something's not right. And that's when I started and it was an odd year to get into it, 2019, but it turned out to be amazing because when you start getting into things before people are all hyped up about it, it really makes a huge difference because then I was prepared for 2020. There was a massive crash. This was March 2020 with the pandemic coming in, and I was like, okay, that's the time to start buying more aggressively. And here I am today. I got into NFTs 2020, but mostly in 2021. It's been incredible. It's just you know crypto, NFTs, the whole scene is just an incredible place to be in. So yeah, so that's sort of the backstory of my crypto journey.
Oh, excellent. And I know that I was introduced to Bitcoin at a very early stage, and the guy was even trying to transfer me Bitcoin. And when he was talking about wallets and everything, I was like, yeah, no thanks. I just didn't. And yeah, missed the boat on that. And the same happened with
Yeah,
Ethereum. Kind of met somebody very close with that and was kind of talking about it and went, nah. So next time the boat comes around, I'll be jumping on board. These things
yeah,
happen. So
yeah,
yes.
for sure. Yeah, I mean it's the type of thing like when it's true for a lot of people, I think. You're introduced to it, but it takes a while for people to really understand it, digest it, and take that step to get into it because it is a lot of steps. It's not simple. It's confusing, and especially in the early days of crypto, it was a lot more difficult to get into it. And that's kind of where we are with NFTs now. It's still difficult to get into. And it's still the Wild West, even in crypto, but even more so in NFTs.
Yeah, and like because I've had a few guests on talking about it, and I'm trying to get my head around it. But I know that you've recently been to an event, so you might kind of let me know what's kind of the latest going on. What did you learn at the event?
Yeah, so NFTLA, it was a large event here on the west coast of the U.S. Um, these events, NFT NYC is probably the larger one in New York. Um, but on the West Coast, it's a large event. Thousands of people attended. Um, some Hollywood types, obviously, because we're here on the West Coast. What I would say is that we're definitely in the early days. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of interest from entertainers, brands, um, but it's still not to the point where people get it and are embracing it 100%. I'm talking about the big brand. It's still a little bit on the early adopters, but people are seeing that interest. People are seeing the potential. Creators are seeing that potential. So, I mean, what I learned was that this is coming and it's coming fast. We're not quite there yet, but it's a big disruptor coming into the industry for sure.
Okay. And like you mentioned, like a lot of the famous people were at the event.
Some,
So
yeah.
I'm familiar with the rug pulls, which basically, they try to get people to invest and they pull it off. Has there been situations when somebody's name has been kind of put on this, one of the celebrities, that there's been a rug pull, or does that prevent it from happening because it could affect their actual name?
Yeah, that's a great question because and it did come up a bit during the conference. There was a rapper from the 90s, Sir Mix-a-Lot was on one of the panels and he talked a little bit about how he wanted to get into NFTs but waited for the right group to approach him to before he actually said, "Well, okay, I'll actually want to do this," because he didn't want his name, he didn't want to be involved in something that was going to hurt his brand or hurt him in any way. And so he did it very thoughtfully, from what he described, anyways. We'll see what happens with this project. But but yes, in the past there have been celebrities. Uh, so I wouldn't call it an actual rug pull, but there have been cases where I'll leave the names out a little bit, but a famous athlete went in and tried an NFT project. Um, was enthusiastic about it to begin with, but then made sales, but then kind of pulled back out of the project because he said he didn't have enough time. So it's not a rug pull. It was more of a soft rug where you they pulled the effort out of it. So it can happen even with a celebrity. So you have to look at it and say, well, is this person actually really committed to it? Why are they doing it? Is it just a cash grab? Or are they really committed to building something? Are they committed to building their IP? Are they committed to building their own brand? Are they committed to their fans? So these are all things that you can look at, and definitely a celebrity being behind it is absolutely no guarantee that that project will be a success. It can help, but it's not a guarantee for sure.
And I don't know, was it discussed or do you have knowledge in this? But with getting in the celebrities, is it a case that they're coming in and they're getting a certain percentage of the NFTs, or is it that you have to pay them, or a bit of both?
It could all the above. It just depends how it's structured. I mean, they might be getting a cut of the initial sale. They might be getting the royalties from secondary sales. So it really depends. You know, you have to look at it as why are they, what are they actually trying to do? And if they're just trying to sell silly pictures, it's not really anything. Why do you want to get involved in it? Um, if they're trying to build their IP, if they're trying to build um, other products like uh, animation projects or stories or movies behind it. These are the things that, if there are celebrities involved, that you would expect them to be building, not just a quick sale of something that they're involved in. They just tag their name on it. That's not really what you're looking for. You want them trying to build their fan base. You want them seeing that they're committed to building and helping and working and connecting with their fans. That's really the key for from the celebrity side, in my opinion.
And with, say, the NFTs, just so I get my head around it, because I mean, I've seen where somebody is like the artist and does it, and then they release so many and they're all kind of unique. But when you're kind of on about building the IP and creating something, is it that the money from the initial, whatever, their pictures or whatever, and then they use that then to create something else and the community is involved and they can get shares in that?
Yeah, yeah, it could be that. They can make the sales, they can, you know, make money from the sale, the initial sale, and they can also make money from the royalties. But but again, I think what you want to look at is, why are they doing it? Are they doing it to enhance what they're already doing? So if they're a musician, are they doing it to help connect more deeply with their audience? Are they helping? So, you know, you have a fan, and a fan wants to get involved with the artist. They want to connect with the artist at a deeper level. Well, how can they do that? Well, the NFT might give them access to a special showing, a backstage pass. It might give them access to like a webinar that they have where you can ask questions. Like, you think of it like that, like a way to connect with the audience at a deeper level. So, these are the things that you want to actually look for. It's the utility behind the NFT, not just, hey, here's a picture of me. Not just that. Although, there's legitimate use cases for things like that. Certain types of artists and things, their art, their digital art. So I'm not knocking that, but what is the utility behind that NFT? Like, what are they actually trying to do? And if they're a true artist and they're committed to their fans and their audience, it's going to enhance that user experience, that audience experience, that fan experience. That's what you're really looking for. Like, and if you think about it, a fan wants to be a part of that. They don't just want to stream music and listen to it and enjoy it in that way. I mean, think about back in the days when people actually bought vinyl albums, and it was something special that they had the album art, it was on their shelf, it was a way to connect. In the streaming world, you don't have that same connection. You're streaming it, okay, you're listening to it, you buy a ticket, you might go to an event. But now this NFT actually gives you a way to connect at a different level. And that ownership, that NFT, which gives you ownership, it does give you that feeling of ownership. So you actually have it in your wallet. You own it. You have the right to resell it. It is yours. And it gives you a different level of connection with that artist.
And is, because like I've heard about artists being able to use that, but just say that they released, say, an album with all the songs and it doesn't go into Spotify and the other thing. And so people then are kind of like, say, buying the album as an NFT. Was that?
It's possible, but yes, it is possible to do something like that. It isn't necessarily the only thing you can do as an artist, is to put a song on an NFT. Think about someone that you're a fan of, whether it's a musical artist or an actor, an actress, but you want to connect with them in a different way. How would you do that today? Well, you might try to go to their event. You might try to, you know, connect to them some way on Twitter. Okay, that's one level of engagement, social media. But this is another level of engagement. It's saying, okay, well, I own a piece of it. It could be the album art, right? It could be um, a special membership that allows you to communicate with the artist more directly or in a smaller setting. Um, so think of it from that perspective. What ownership and what that feeling of ownership can do as a fan, rather than as buying a product, if that makes sense.
Yes, it
So
does.
you're not really just buying the product and saying that's it and putting it up on your wall. I would say it's more about the connection. And also think of it like this. How many times we just talked about Bitcoin, right? And how we saw it early on and we didn't actually commit to it. But imagine those things that you did commit to early on, an artist or a musician or an actor, and you saw that, you say that person has a lot of talent and I'm a fan. And imagine that they had an NFT in the, in those early on. They were, an early artist, they were trying to get their name out, and you recognized the talent and you became a fan and you bought their NFT. You can prove that you were an early fan. You would have the bragging rights that you said, hey, listen, I discovered the Beatles when they were just playing in coffee shops. You see,
Mhm.
so maybe back in the day you could show a ticket stub of something you went to, but this is actually on a ledger, public blockchain. It's in your wallet, and you can prove that you're the OG and you're the old, you really got into this early on, and that's a big deal for fans. It's a very powerful thing to be a part of that.
Mhm. Okay, excellent. And what I'm finding is some of the people that are kind of inviting me into different things. The Discord group, is that what most people are using? Because I know that WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, they're
Yeah.
okay for communicating, but unless you keep following the threads. But with the Discord, what I've noticed is people can have like 10 different layers, and it's very
Yeah.
easy to kind of find out what's going on. Is that kind of the norm, that what people are using?
Yeah, in the NFT world, yes, you're right. The two main channels in NFTs currently is Twitter and Discord. Uh, there was a point in 2020 where Telegram, in the crypto space, Telegram's pretty popular, but then it shifted in 2021, and the NFT space just moved over to Discord. Uh, I have, my some qualms with Discord. I don't know if it'll always be that way. It can get confusing. I'm a member of so many. It's hard to actually sort out. And but yes, Discord, you can go in, join a community, start chatting away. There's usually different channels on the side that you can see, but um, yeah. So if you're coming in new, it can be a bit overwhelming. So I would just say, yeah, take it slow, join a couple groups, see how it goes. I would also say um, beware of the DMs, the direct messages. You're going to get spammed a lot. Don't click on the links that you get in there. NFTs, they're definitely the Wild West. If you think crypto's the Wild West, wait until you see NFTs, the NFT world. So extra precautions. You're going to be a pioneer in that you're going to be very early if you start jumping in now. And with that, you just have to be a little bit more aware, a little bit more cautious, but also enjoy it. The community's great. For the most part, they're very welcoming. You can chat with people. I find people very open. And also, if you're used to the crypto space, which I also love, in NFTs, there's even a wider variety mix of people. You have artists, you have crypto people, you have just a huge range of disciplines that are coming into the space. And that's what makes it a little bit different from crypto, which is also broad, but a little bit more narrow. But NFTs are even broader. So it's a wild but fun space to be a part of.
Okay. And you mentioned, people kind of the rats coming out to grab you and get you to hit link. Is there a place
Yeah.
then that people are sharing where you can find that? Because unfortunately, especially newbies coming in, They just assume this is normal, having engaged in a conversation. And
Yeah.
are people able to track and where you can find, where they log these guys? Because normally they go into 20 different groups, and until they're kicked out, they keep pretending they're everyone's best friend.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's part of it. It just goes part and parcel with the space. It's just a lot of people spamming you, not just scams, but just straight up spam. I mean, just constantly shilling their projects. There isn't one place, but what I would say for someone new trying to get in is start with just by listening and understanding what's going on in the space. And you can do that pretty simply. Just go on to Twitter, follow some NFT accounts. Um, I would start with Twitter and YouTube and then move to Discord because Discord gets a little bit noisy. But just get that, um, I just call it like situational awareness. Like just try to understand what's going on in the space and start listening. And you'll see people talking about rug pulls. You'll see people are saying, okay, this is what just happened. This Discord just got hacked. Or you'll see people saying, yeah, this project turned out to be a rug pull. This project turned out to be a low effort project, or this project's turning out pretty good. There's a lot of chatter. And just getting involved and, even if you set up a separate Twitter, that's totally fine. Start joining, start following people and listen and slowly start getting involved and then start joining the discords. I think is a good path to take to start getting into the space.
Okay, excellent. And I know that you've got a blog, and you've actually a lovely style of writing, because you kind of simplify the complicated. That's the way I would describe it. You might talk about your blog.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, NFTska, NFTska.com. And it's a no shill, it's just educational content on NFTs, more designed for people that are kind of just getting into the space and they might be a bit confused about terminology, about how to do things, because it's really overwhelming. And you just want someone to say, okay, this is what's going on. And this is, how it works. This is what people are talking about. So yeah, so right now it's me. I blog there. I have another writer that's heavily involved in NFTs. So we're both in the space, uh, day in and day out, learning about this stuff, talking about this stuff, and writing about it. So yeah, please have a visit.
Okay, excellent. So there's a few things that I listened to some video that you'd post on, as well as stuff you were writing. So I'll just talk on a
Yeah.
few things, and you might just tell people what they are. Gas fees. I mean, it's not something that Putin has actually affected around the world, where everybody is crying every time they fill up the car. I don't think that's what they mean by gas fees.
Right, right. So you can think of it like a transaction fee. And so when you purchase an NFT, just like when you purchase tokens, actually, I mean, you might not notice it because you're buying it on a centralized exchange, but if you actually own your crypto, you have to pay a transaction fee to move it to your wallet. And that transaction fee essentially goes to miners, just to keep it simple. But it's that fee to say, okay, this token or this NFT belongs to this wallet. And when you move it, you have to pay that miner to say, okay, to move it onto the ledger, into your wallet. Now, Ethereum is the most common blockchain that NFTs live on. It's not the only blockchain. And Ethereum has high gas fees. I mean, it depends on congestion on the network, but it can get very pricey. But there are other blockchains where it's extremely minimal, like Solana is probably the second most popular blockchain to purchase NFTs on. Tezos is another one. So uh, they have lower transaction fees, and there's pluses and minuses to all of them. But and I've written a post on buying Solana NFTs and some of the differences between Ethereum and Solana. But it's the price you pay for dealing with the blockchain, basically.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So next one is you might explain whitelist and then how to get on a whitelist.
The infamous whitelists. Yeah. If you start getting into NFTs, start getting deeply into it, you're going to start seeing people talking about whitelists. And the whole idea behind it is people are trying to get in early onto projects, very early. So they hear about this hot new project, it's being hyped by some influencer, and if you can get in before the public sale, you might be able to get a lower price, a special price, even sometimes free. Um, and by doing so, you might be able to then flip it later for the public sale price. Sort of the idea behind it. And then from the project's perspective, it helps them because they're helping to hype their project, building up demand, getting some of these very early on enthusiastic people to hype their project to say, okay, I'm going to get on this whitelist. I'm on the whitelist, and they're going to be promoters of it. So all this is in the realm of whitelist. So getting on a whitelist just means that you are given access, put on a whitelist. Your wallet really is really what you're talking about. Your wallet is being whitelisted to get very early for this pre-sale. To get on a whitelist, you have to really listen for a project on Twitter. There's actually a website, there's Rarity Tools, but that's gotten very congested also. It's gotten a lot more difficult to find good projects early. Um, but it's really listening, getting in on those discords, getting on Twitter, and then going into that group's Discord or looking on Twitter, whatever they say, and then following their steps to get on their whitelist, which usually involves promoting their project. So retweeting stuff, posting in Discords, doing all sorts of things. Now I've done some of this, and the summer of 20, the summer and into the fall of 2021 was a much easier time to do these sorts of things. It was very early on, and if you got into one of these white lists, it worked out very well. Now there's so many whitelist promotions. It's really clogged things up on my Twitter. So it's more difficult. You have to spend more time sorting out all the bad projects from the good projects, and then trying to get on these whitelists, and then purchasing early, hopefully, and then maybe flipping for a profit. So I have a post on that, talking about some strategies. I have a whitelisting article and then another article on this quick flip strategy. If you listen to my hesitation in my voice, it's because it is not as easy as it seems. And it takes time. If you're brand new to the space, it's going to take time for you to sort of learn really how to find those good projects, understand it, and actually take the risk to do something like that. So I would just say go in cautiously. If you're brand new to the space, start simply. Just go in, buy an NFT from OpenSea, on a secondary market. Uh, Take the simpler steps first, and then if you want to go the higher risk route and start going down the whitelists and early projects and that whole degen scene, you can do it, but just realize that it's going to take more work and it's a higher risk proposition, and maybe it'll be profitable. Right now, it's a little bit of a bear market, so it's tougher than during a bull run. It's much easier, but it is possible. Just do it with caution.
Because I know
Yeah.
I did one course on the cryptos, and basically the guy was kind of advising what way to check everything, and he'd like something like 47 steps, which is a lot of time. But if you're going to put a lot of money in, and I'm just wondering what kind of stuff. Because, for example, for me, because I mean, there's even people now offering me to get in early, right? Because they're reaching out to me because I've kind of getting this podcasting going, and the fact that I'm kind of podcasting for a while, and the other four podcasts are in the top 0.5%. I'm planning on trying to get this one as well. And my fear is that if I do it to reach out to my audience, that's great if I'm actually going to be helping both sides, make the listeners make a few shillings and get the project off the ground. But I don't want to be promoting something that's going to be, one, a rug pull that would be terrible, but two, that they could lose money. And the more checks in place that I have to make sure that if I am going to go down that route, I mean, I'll always tell people beware anyway, no matter what, because that's just I think everyone does their own due diligence.
Yeah, it's a common, as we talked about in the beginning, this is the Wild West. So there's so many projects now. In 2021, summer 2021, it was easier because there were far fewer projects and it was getting going. But what happened was the number of projects exploded and the quality went down because people just started rushing in trying to their NFT project. It's not sustainable, and it's already gotten to the point where there's just so many terrible projects that are promoting and promoting and promoting. Now, within that, there are a few gems, but it's much more difficult because of all the junk that has just totally flooded in. And for someone new coming in, it gives NFTs and the whole space a bad name because you're seeing mostly junk. And unless you're experienced and spend a little time in the space, you just ignore that stuff. And you start seeing the better projects, who's doing what, which goes back to my earlier point. You have to start by listening, getting involved, following the accounts on Twitter, watching the YouTube videos, understanding the space, and then jumping in. What you don't want to do is come in brand new, not know anything, and then try to get on some white list because you heard about it, just randomly, and then try to make a quick buck. Could it work out? Sure. The chances but percentage wise, very low. Either you're going to have a rug pull or it's just going to be a low effort project. It's going to be worthless. Because if you think about it, what's another, if you're familiar with the term PFP, it's a profile pic. Another profile pic project, which is just, avatars, images of avatars. And there's still good ones that come out, but what is it, another one for what? Like what is the connection that you have with that project? What's behind that project really? Is there anything of substance there? And it's getting more competitive, not less. So these low effort projects are even more likely to fail than to succeed. So go in with a lot of caution. That said, getting involved, we're very early, and getting in early and understanding will help you later on once you understand the space. And I think that is really the key point. If you want to just rush in to make a quick buck, make the analogy back to 2017 with all the ICOs that were going on, initial coin offerings. It was just a mad rush. Anyone can make a coin, an ERC20 coin, and people did, but they were junk. A similar thing is happening now. It doesn't mean that crypto is bad, doesn't mean that Ethereum or Bitcoin is bad. It just means that a lot of people try to rush in with a cash grab. So It's the same idea in NFTs. A lot of people are rushing in for a cash grab. That doesn't make the space bad or worthwhile understanding. It means that you have to educate yourself to understand the good from the bad, and that takes time.
Excellent. No, very good advice. And just
Yeah.
finally, actually, because I know that Gary V is big into NFTs, and I'm not sure about Elon Musk, but is it worth, say, somebody to go, okay, Gary V knows what he's doing, he's getting into these things, just following what he's recommending and going in and just, or is that a dangerous tactic?
It could be a tactic. Yeah, I mean, you can, if it's someone that you trust, it does help if someone has a brand and has built up trust over a long period of time, like Gary V. You might think that he's not willing to ruin his name over one NFT project, right? So that's not to say every celebrity won't do that. You see, so let's just separate that out. It doesn't necessarily mean a celebrity wants, there are people out there that just want to make a quick buck and just leave the space. So when you look at the person and you want to see if you can trust their advice, have they built up a brand over the years, and what's the likelihood of them wanting to ruin it over one project? Uh, it's and every person is going to have a different answer to that. With Gary V, um, I don't know what kind of besides his own. I don't know what projects he's actually. Sometimes he'll shout out people. Doesn't mean he'll make a mistake, right? Yeah, I mean, he does. I think he's had some good calls. Like he was early on in World of Women. Um, so yeah, he's had some good calls, not always right. So you can, even if you trust what he says, doesn't mean he's going to be right 100% of the time. But it is a tactic, and it is something you should listen. Yeah. So going back to my first point, I think it is a good way to listen and understand what's going on. What are people saying about the project? Is Gary V supporting it? Did he mention it? Is a good tactic, I think. If you think that influencer won't want to ruin his good name very quickly, over one project.
Okay, excellent. Listen,
Yeah.
it's thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. You might let
Yeah.
people know where they can get you.
Yeah. NFTska.com. That's NFTska.com. And I'm on Twitter. You can follow me there. NFT_ska.com. I don't promote projects. I hold a bunch of NFTs, so sometimes I talk about them, but I don't promote. I don't shill stuff. I'm mostly keeping it educational, some random stuff every once in a while. So NFT_SKA is my Twitter handle. So you want to check me out there? Yeah, follow me there.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and I'll make sure that I put the links both in the audio and the video. So thank you very much, Ed.
Yeah, thanks, Roy. Good talking to you.
So that's all for the Crypto Podcast. You'll find all our episodes on thecryptopodcast.org. On BitChute and YouTube, you'll find the links in the podcast description. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star review. It all helps. Until next week, take care.